Good day to you.
Good day to you.
You may begin with your first question.
Sure. Anik was just talking about her thoughts and how much time she spends in her thoughts during the day, and wondering if her thoughts are what you would call maybe normal thoughts interfacing with reality, or if those thoughts are preventing her from achieving higher vibrational levels, possibly creating resistance. Would you be able to comment on maybe the amount of time she spends in her thoughts and if there's areas of improvement?
So, what she has been experiencing is the fact that she's more aware of her embodied state. She's more aware of the baseline of how it feels like when she is fully embodied in her body, in her physical being. And as this becomes a new baseline for her, she's being made more aware of where her thoughts lead her and not being always led by her thoughts. So there is new awareness happening for her on this specific topic. It's not that the thoughts are bad or negative or even positive. It's not necessarily about the content of the thoughts. It's really about how present is she with the thoughts that come up. How aware is she of the thoughts coming, where they're coming from. So what we mean by that is, are they sort of a record player, a regurgitation of something she's heard, or is it her thinking her thoughts? There is somewhat of a difference, and she will know by how she feels, by how present she is with these thoughts. You can bring presence into thoughts, you can bring intent into thoughts, and this is what we would suggest for her as she is noticing more and more her thought pattern or her thought current bringing her to different places. The fact that she is able to remove resistance from this process is we will say sort of an evolution of where she was before. Because she used to catch herself in these random daydreams or these random autopilot thoughts, mostly reflections, where she would feel sort of a sense of resistance to sort of just floating around in the thought world, in the thought realm. And now she allows the process to be a creative process. So the fact that she is able to do this and take notice more often during the day is the most beneficial, because she's not introducing extra resistance to this. What we would say is adding a practice where there is more stillness in her mind, and along with just being aware of sloppy thinking. Meaning, are these thoughts beneficial for me? Beneficial in the sense of, is it feeding and fueling where I want to go? Where I'm wanting to bring my focused attention to? So, here's where we wish to go with this. There's a rewriting of the stories that is happening for her, and possibly many of you at this time. As you are being made more aware of these stories that are being told in your mind, stories are just another way to say belief system. belief patterns, looping patterns on any topic and every topic. If you are, we're giving this example because it's very specific to Anik. As she eats certain foods, she has quite the black and white judgment on what is good and what is bad. She's well versed in the sifting and sorting process of ingredients and nutrients that to a fault, because every morsel she puts in her mouth, she finds something to be negative. That she will eat the most healthy thing and find the one bad thing about it. It could be a fruit, and then it's probably filled with pesticides. And we are exaggerating just to prove a point, but what we are wanting to say about this is she is catching herself more than ever. She is rewriting the story. She's rewriting the narrative where, as she is eating the foods, she is bringing herself to neutrality. She's able to bring herself to a state of neutrality where she knows, and she's tapping into this sense of trust, where she knows that her body is able to process and bring harmony and calibration with every morsel she puts in her mouth. So why we are bringing this conversation to food and to nutrients and nutrition, and it's all about what you are processing in your system. You can see the body as the hardware and the mind as the software. So as you are allowing less resistance thoughts, less judging thoughts around any topic such as food, you are removing resistance and allowing more flow. The resistance around or judgment around a thought on any topic introduces discord in the body, discord in the field, discord perhaps in your emotional body. So when you are able to release the resistance and bring yourself to neutrality, and perhaps even bump it up to positivity, and we mean positivity in a sense that it's a more serving way to tell a story about any topic. It's not that there's negative and positive here, but we are just wanting to say that there are stories that you are telling yourself that runs a lower frequency, because when you believe these stories, you don't feel so good. So telling a story where you do feel good might be more beneficial. So we believe this will help clear or clarify some of the questions she may be having around this topic.
So we've talked in the collective about perceiving the mind not just as a tool that interprets reality, but also seeing the mind as a tool of creation of reality.
Yes.
And would you agree that every thought that we create, every thought that we instantiate in our mind is fueling our future reality?
In some ways, yes, but it also depends on how much life force, focus, juice, intent that thought is backed up with. You follow us?
So the more juice you put into a thought, maybe the more deeply you feel the thought or believe the thought, the greater impact it has in the brushstroke of creating future reality.
Yes, the juice is not how often or how hard you're going to think one thought. It's really about the emotional state that it brings up for you. That is the juice, meaning this is the determining factor on how much potency this thought has in affecting and influencing your frequency.
So in a lot of the recent discussions we've had, we've talked about how we're evolving, humans are evolving, we are evolving to a new paradigm where we are spending much less time in the mental body, or we're much less focused in the mental body, and we're more grounded and more present in our now moments, in our physical body. In order to support that shift, that transition, what advice would you have in terms of how we can maybe consciously or proactively be better managers of our thoughts, or how do we proactively use our mental body in the most ideal way?
Even before that conversation, we wish to say the most important key here, the most important ingredient in all of this is that, first of all, you are human and you are coming from a very deeply programmed and conditioned way of doing things from the mind. And nothing negative here. There's nothing bad happening with you processing and reflecting and utilizing the mind as you have been. As you are switching to a reality where you are more body-based, heart-based, soul-based, the mind will still chime in. The mind will still have its cycles of patterning, and it will show up. The most important thing is to not resist it, to not judge it, to allow it to be weaved into the fabric of your evolution, right? So even before we can have the conversation on what benefits, what tools or what ways to move forward with how to balance out the mind-body experience, the first thing is to remember that if you catch yourself having all these, the mind being busy or active, there's nothing wrong. You're simply being aware of what is preferred and what you wish to choose. You are constantly handed options. So it's just a matter of choosing the option that feels best for you. Right?
Yes.
Now, ask your question again.
As we step into the new paradigm, what advice would you have from the mental body vantage point of shifting from spending our time in the mental body versus spending less time favoring the mind? So really what I'm asking is, from a practical vantage point, how do I want to start perceiving or interfacing with my mind or my reality differently than we currently do?
So the first step is observing, being the observer, taking the position of having stepped back and observing the stories that your mind is playing out. What movie is it playing? What storyline is it telling? So the first step is observing, because then you can determine if this story or this movie not only feels good or feels bad, but is it also in harmony with where you wish to go? So yes, you are heading in a place, in a reality, in a realm, in a new paradigm where things become more body-based. Things become more impulse, heartfelt based. This is not to negate that the mind is just going to shut off and no longer play any of the stories that it has built upon for all these years that you have been alive in this body. It's still a very powerful tool for you to utilize, and it's also meant to be used for you to create, to co-create. So the first step is observing the stories, and as you catch the stories, as you sort of notice them, this is where you have a choice point. You now have a choice point. Are you going to keep these stories on autopilot and regurgitating in your mind, or are you wanting to choose to tell the story differently, to change the narrative on, it can be the food example, that your body knows exactly how to utilize all particles of this food piece that you put in your body. Instead of creating tension in the stomach because you have a belief that the pesticides are bad for you. So the stories you tell will dictate the chemical reaction and the frequency that your body and your being holds. So observing the story is really the first step.
So becoming consciously aware of the thoughts we're practicing.
Absolutely. And the more, this may sound, it's not that you need to take control of the mind. You simply need to observe what it is doing and then give it a new command or give it a new direction or a new focus. It's not about controlling it, it's about redirecting.
So if I notice my mind stating something that I don't prefer and I catch it, would it then be beneficial to state the more preferred story, almost as if to kind of overwrite the unpreferred?
Yes, we would do something like this. We will go back to the food example. You are eating, we'll simplify, you are eating an apple. And as you're taking a bite of this apple, you catch yourself having the thought of the pesticides. Now, before redirecting, how can you, there's a point where you need to bring in the body into the equation. The first step we would recommend is, can you in that moment relax your body? Being grateful that you have caught yourself, caught that thought. Feeling gratitude that you are able to observe these things. Not make them wrong, just observe. And by relaxing the body, you're creating the neutrality. You're allowing things to sort of empty out. The frequency of the tension, the frequency of that belief of the tension that has been looping as a program, you simply need to just, it'll sound oversimplified, but just, there's a letting go that needs to happen, of some sort of allowing your nervous system to just relax into it, ease into it. Because if you are introducing the new story, still with the tension in your body, you're not getting further ahead. You are simply trying to force something in at the same frequency. So there needs to be a body response or a body release before introducing, let's say, the new storyline.
Almost getting
the new
into
focus.
the receiving mode.
Yes, this is the perfect way to say it. If you know how to open up your energy, relax your energy, ground your energy, this is the moment to do so. It doesn't need to be a 15-minute process. It literally takes 30 seconds. It's just about stopping, taking a breath, grounding your energy, creating a shift, feeling yourself open. You can even focus all this energy, feel your heart open. Feel the tension leave your body, the tension from the belief, the older belief. Feel it simply wash away. Allow it to empty from your body. And the moment you feel the shift, then you can introduce the new idea, the new thought, the new direction, the new focus. Right?
Yes, to me it sounds like you're almost stepping out of the resistance before adding the new.
It's always the case for any process. Because any action you take, any new moment that you enter, it's all about the frequency that you're entering that moment with. It's all about the state that you're entering this new moment with. So if you take that split moment of 15 to 30 seconds to calibrate your energy, to allow yourself to fall into a state of openness, receptivity, appreciation, then you are stepping forward into your next moment from that vantage point. You are creating from a new energy. You are not creating from the same tense, fear-based energy. let's say, of the pesticides of the apple, you are bringing in a totally new frequency. You allow the pesticides of the apple to coexist with you. You allow them to be there. You allow yourself to merge with them, to allow their presence. You no longer resist what you consider bad. You realize that what is considered bad, or all judgment of bad, is simply your mind making up those stories. And then once you realize these are just stories, you begin to remove the polarity from your experiences, because you're no longer saying, oh, this is good, this is bad. You're simply softening to what is. You're simply accepting what is. You're allowing the experience that is present as a present, because you understand that it is. Because it's an opportunity and it is a choice point for you to choose again.
And as we step out of polarity, we're also stepping out of practicing resistance.
Yes. So really, the initial question that Anik was asking earlier today was, how can I enjoy my reality if what she was basically not challenging us, but she was wondering, like, you expect me to not have any thought and simply live in my body, but I enjoy my thoughts and I enjoy being in my reflective body and I enjoy daydreaming in my mind. So are you telling me that I need to completely wipe that out and constantly empty my mind? And this is what she was sort of asking us as she was reflecting on these things. So some people enjoy the process of emptying the mind constantly. It is a process. It's something you can play with. But we are not saying that it's the only way. We're not saying that it's the way to the peace that you are seeking. Because you are also here to co-create. You are also here to utilize the mind to enjoy your co-creations. Right? Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Anything else around this topic?
I think that feels very complete for this topic.